Welcome to Stephen King Saturdays. Riding the Bullet, a film that most people have never heard of. This is definitely a lesser known Stephen King adaptation, directed by Mick Garris. You don't hear people talk about this one almost ever. Now, what this is based upon, I don't know this story, but I'm assuming that it is in one of his, collected stories, like A Night Shift or something. But yeah, I don't know which one this is from. And it doesn't say on here. Now, this does say it's the full-length theatrical version, where this originally aired and played. It says the USA Network, but this is rated R. It features a lot of cursing and nudity, so this is definitely not like some made-for-TV miniseries kind of thing, or like a TV episode or anything that was on like a regular network. This definitely has a lot of R rating stuff in it, so I don't know what it was worth. I should have looked that up, but got better shit to do. I want to talk about this film. So this film has definitely bigger than cameos, but bit parts played by David Arquette, Matt Frewer, Barbara Hershey, and Nikki Katt. And Greg Nicotero actually does the makeup. It's funny, I've been watching so many movies lately. Where Greg Nicotero is the makeup person on it. It's pretty funny. It's just like one after the other, and which is great. It's funny to me. It's just like I keep like seeing his name pop up on the screen so many films in a row now. Where not every single one in a row, but like I'll watch one, he'll be part of it, and then I'll watch something, and then I'll watch another thing, and then it'll be like every other movie, and it's been happening for like weeks now. But anyways, all right. So this one it's kind of like an equal blend between comedy and horror, I'd say. We got our main character here, who is this kid named Alan, and he is journeying back home. He's going to hitchhike across Maine to try to get to his mother, who's in the hospital. And this is a kid who's very depressed. He tries killing himself, which we're going to get to. And then he encounters people along the way, and there's this like subconscious voice in the back of his head that keeps telling him that he's in danger, and he has so many like where he fantasizes about the way something's gonna happen, and then we see how it actually happens. But we'll have multiple moments like that, like in the same scene, where he'll like go into a room, it'll play out one way, then he'll go back into the room, and you think, oh, is this the real time? And then it'll play out a different way. Then he'll go back into the room, and then it'll be like, is this the real time? Like, when are we going to see the real time? So that can get a tad frustrating, because you cannot rely on a single thing you see in this film. Nothing. But I guess that goes along with, it's so fucking windy out here. I hope this isn't disrupting the sound, because I have so many fucking sound issues. And if this wind is giving me sound issues, I'm going to be so fucking mad. I remember to put it on airplane mode, but now the wind, I can't record inside right now. I'm at my dad's house, so this is where I have the ability to record. This channel is so fucking hard to keep up with sometimes. It's very, very, very hard. Let's just say that. Anyways, it's the unreliable narrator, right? Like, you don't know what to believe at literally any second in the entire film. And that is kind of unnerving, because you're sitting there watching it, and you want to believe what you're watching is part of the story, and something happens, and you're like, oh shit, and then it's like, take it back. And you're like, oh. And then you're like, oh shit, and then they take it back, and you're like, oh. And then something happens, and you're like, oh shit, and then you're like, are they going to take it back? So you start to kind of go, all right, that didn't really happen. And then the scene continues, and you're like, oh, it did happen? Oh, okay, it is actually happening. And then it just continues to play on. You're like, oh, okay, I guess that did happen. And then something else will happen. You'll be like, okay, did that happen? And you wait, and then you find out it did, and then you're like, okay. Or you find out it didn't, and then you go, fuck, all right, now I got to put myself in a different headspace. It becomes frustrating. It's very unreliable. So, yeah, while the scenes can be funny, because that's a lot of the times what it's played for me, is it's kind of comedic. He walks into a situation, it happens this way, and it's kind of funny, and then it doesn't actually happen that way. And then you laugh, and then you see how it actually plays out. That's fine once in a while. I mean, it happens in High Fidelity, right? Like, he has these interactions with Tim Robbins' character. Ian, isn't that his name? What fucking Ian guy? And he, like, takes, like, a phone and smashes his face in, which I think it was the phone. It's been so long since I've seen it. But I thought that scene was genuinely hilarious. Like, I was laughing so hard because I was thinking, like, yeah, that's totally what we think in our heads. And that's what happens in this film, and I completely am fine with that for a while. But when it happens, like, 30 times, you're like, dude, I need to know what's actually happening in this movie. The movie's only 90 fucking minutes long, and like 30 minutes of it is like fake out shit. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but man, it feels like it. So that can be frustrating. We get straight up opening tits. There's some girl modeling for an art class, and she's gorgeous, and her body's amazing, and you just get this like full on like movie star tits, and it just like kind of zooms out on this babe, and you're like, whoa, okay, here we go. This is how you start a movie. Got my attention, right? Right off the bat. And then Matt Frewer, he plays, he's Trash Can Man for Stephen King fans. He's been in a lot of stuff, obviously, but I think that's maybe where Stephen King fans might know him best. He plays a teacher in this, and he's actually giving his art student shit for being too artistic, because his art student is obsessed with death. Now, this is set in 1969, so it is a period piece, but he's like trashing him because he's drawing the naked babe with like the Grim Reaper standing behind her, because this kid is obsessed with death. He's, I would assume, maybe like hypochondriac or has death anxiety or whatever, which I can completely relate to. I very much have the same thing. So he's always constantly thinking about death. But I just find it funny that the art teacher is trashing his work because he's like, you know, that's not what's there, this and that. I was like, it's artistic, right? It's artistic license. Like, he's allowed to add what he wants to the picture, and it's a good drawing. Like, you should give him credit for that. Like, just because you don't like the art doesn't mean it's not good art. But he's like, you know, but people are very obsessed with like, oh, why do you always gotta make everything so dark and so scary, and like, why you gotta be that? And I've definitely dealt with that in my life, being such a horror fan. People are like, oh my god, look at those tattoos you have on your arms. You really like, you know, tattooed murderers on their arms. Is that really what you want to promote for the rest of your life? Like, you're glorifying serial killers and this and that. I'm like, they're not fucking real. If I had Charles Manson and Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and fucking all these guys tattooed on my arms, yes, 100%. That's glorification of serial killers, and I'm not okay with that. I mean, if you want to do that, it's your own fucking right. I'm not going to sit here and judge you. I just personally think that's stupid. I don't have any interest in actual serial killers. I think they're cunts. They don't fascinate me like they do other people. I think they're horrible, dreadful people, and I wish they never existed. But I do like the fake ones because I find all of that to be very entertaining in a fictional way. But then his girlfriend tries to break up with him, and he goes and is going to kill himself. This is a very depressed kid who's very obsessed with death, and we get this kind of like backstory about how his mom took him on a ride when he was a kid called The Bullet, and they sat in line for like an hour, and then he freaked out and was scared, so he wanted to get off the line, which, let me tell you what, I understand this 100 million%. My daughter Elliot has done this multiple times where she freaks the fuck out. She did it on the Indiana Jones ride right before we were going to get on. We'd been in that line forever, and she's like, I don't want to ride it. It's too scary. And I'm like, you haven't even seen the ride. You can't. It's enclosed. You can't. We're not even in here yet. You know, you don't even know what it is. It's because I told her there's a big snake that you see because she's terrified of snakes, and I wanted to pre-warn her and be like, hey, Elliot, just so you know, there's a big snake. So like, I'm gonna cover your eyes when that's about to happen. And she's like, no, the snake's gonna get me. Big mistake on my part. I thought pre-warning her would set her up for it, and she would be like, oh, I'm mentally prepared for it, but I underestimated mentally preparing a child. She was like 5 or 6 at the time. Stupid on me, for sure. But I just thought I would be proactive about it, right? I would tell her, and it would set her. But no, so I should have just covered her eyes on the ride and been like, "Oh, you don't want to see this," and she would have been like, "Why?" And I would have been like, "Don't worry about it." That would have been the smarter thing to do. But I was trying to respect that she could handle it. I was wrong, but she freaked the fuck out. And we had to get off, and I was pissed. I was like, really? I just sat in this line forever, and I don't even get to ride it with my family. This sucks, you know. And then she did the same thing on the Millennium Falcon ride in Galaxy's Edge, which I was, you know, Smuggler's Run. I was bummed about that, and Jen, my kids, she had to take her off the line, and Oliver, my daughter, and I had to ride the ride together alone, which sucks because it's a 6-person ride, where everyone has different tasks. Like, anyways, if you've been on the ride, look it up. It's cool. But yeah, I understand that. But her mom gets pissed at him and slaps him across the face because she's like, I'm done with this. And I guess this like traumatizes his entire fucking life, from what I can tell. Like, he's still playing this, and it's all about the bullet. And he's like, his, you know, relationship with his mother is terrible. And he even, like, at a part in this movie, like, chooses his mother's death to save his own life, and he looks back on that moment with her as, like, you know, kind of the nail in her coffin of like, fuck you, mom. She got mad at you because you were being a little pussy on a fucking roller coaster when you were way too old to be doing that, and she got mad at you. And who knows what the context is? I don't know what the fucking context is. Maybe he's done this to her multiple times. Is her striking him across the face, slapping him, like, great? No, of course not. Of course not. But a mom slapping you one time across the face in a fit of anger with something that you've done ruined your life to the point where you cut your wrists and like want to sacrifice her to literally like the Grim Reaper. You're a fucking pussy. You're a fucking pussy. Really? That's the most traumatic experience of your life? Get the fuck out of here. You clearly have not had a hard childhood if your mom's slapping you across the face once in line for a ride when she was pissed off because you made her sit there for an hour is the worst traumatic experience of your life. Holy fuck, you've had an amazing life. Like, I just could not take that scene seriously. I'm like, oh my god, really? That's it? That's it? Talk to somebody who's actually had an abusive childhood, who actually has a legitimately awful parent. Now, granted, she could have been awful the rest of his life, and this is just one snippet that we see. But their relationship seems so great otherwise. She's so happy, she's so sweet. Now, that can be, and trust me, I get that. There can be people who are like super sweet, and then they have this dark side, and they turn evil for like a moment and then do something fucked up, and then they go right back to like, and abusive boyfriends do this, right? There's abusive boyfriends who are like super sweet, and, oh, I'm so sorry, baby, I didn't mean to hit you, it'll never happen again, I love you, and then they treat him great, and they're amazing to him for weeks, months, whatever, and then they do something again, and the guy just slaps him or hits him right across the fucking face, and then he's super mean for like a minute, and then he goes right back to like, oh my god, baby, I'm so sorry. Like, I get it. Like, these things happen, and those people are, they need help, and it's not okay. And I'm just saying that. But the way the film shows it, it's not enough. It's just not enough for me to be like, this is a horrendously traumatic experience, poor guy, to where like he has to go and he's thinking about riding the bullet, the roller coaster, and he's like forced to ride it with the demon, and then he goes and he rides it when he's an adult to get over, like, now he's, I guess, over his trauma of the past with his mom. It's just not a dramatic enough scene for me. Like, there needed to be way more to it. There needed to be way more interaction with his mom for me to buy that this scene was that awful. slapped across the face. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, and oh man, when he tries to cut his wrists, he has a surprise party that walks in on him cutting his wrists. Ooh, you don't ever forget about, you're never going to live that one down. Unless you die, then you're not going to live anything down. We got a Christine, I'm not even going to say a cameo, we get Christine in this movie, like outright. The Plymouth Fury is prominently featured in this film. And it's prominently featured in Cat's Eye as well, which I just did for Stephen King Saturday last week or the week before? The week before, 2 weeks ago. It has Christine, and the bumper sticker even says that it's Christine, which is so stupid. But this one has a Christine. It's not actually Christine, but it is the car, which David Arquette is driving around, and we see multiple times throughout the film, like many, many times. So it's the most prominent car used in the film for sure. Which is cool. We get a really on-the-nose call to all of the events that are going to happen in the future, with this guy talking about, it's going to be interesting to see what John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison are all up to in their old age. Like, he specifically names every person who dies young and obviously never is old. It's just too on the nose. It's just too on the nose. Like, I get it. It's a wink wink to the audience. Like, oh, all these guys die young. It's just, I don't know. When he said it, I'm like, oh, God, come on. You could have wrote that better. And he gets tickets to see John Lennon in the Plastic Ono Band, and he is going to invite his friends, and they're going to go along with him, and they're going to buy tickets when they get there. And he's like, oh my God, my mom's in the hospital. And he's like, I guess you guys can just go. This is definitely one of the funniest scenes, if not the funniest scenes to me, because of how real it can be. He's like, oh, you can take my tickets, it's okay. Like, they don't like give him a hug, tell him like, oh, that sucks, this and that. They literally just take the tickets, jump in the car, and they're like, all right, man, later, have fun. It's pretty funny. That's pretty fucking funny. The friends could not care less that his mom is in the hospital, that he doesn't get to go, that the tickets aren't even theirs. He's like, oh, yeah, I guess you guys can just go without me. And they literally just jump in the car and drive off. That's fucking amazing. That's hilarious. That is good humor. That is something I love seeing in movies. Like, just the total, oh, okay, fuck you. It's so good. Then we get Nicky Katt, who he's driving with. I guess he's coming back from Vietnam, and he's pretending to be a hippie, and he kind of gets exposed for it, and he tells him like the reason that he's doing it is because people were calling him a baby killer, and that's not him, and he like is pretending to be a hippie so that people don't think he was actually in the war. Now, why he would carry around his army fatigues with him in his car that would expose his secret, who knows, who cares? That's a plot device so that we can find out that he was actually in the war. But that's a real thing. I mean, that's an unfortunate real event. I mean, that's very much what First Blood is about. Like at the end when Rambo's fucking freaking out and he's like, come back, they call me a baby killer. Like, that shit is dramatic. That's one of my favorite performances and scenes in any film in the history of cinema. But yeah, that's a real dark piece of our history as well. It's like, we sent these kids over there to do a job, to fight in this war, and then when they come back, everyone's throwing shit at them, telling them they're baby killers, they can't get jobs, they're so screwed up from PTSD and Agent Orange and all. I mean, Vietnam was just so fucking horrible. And just, this is one of those things. This guy's having to pretend to be a hippie to try to blend in so he's not scrutinized and shit on for murdering babies over in Vietnam. That's horrible. It's horrible. And it's played kind of for laughs, and Nicky Katt's funny in it. But regardless, it's fucking like, it's a real part of history, and it's really sad to think about, like, what we did to these veterans that came back after we sent them over there. Really, really fucked up. The funniest scene in the movie is, I love random talking animals. I've always been a big fan of it. There's a movie called Shrooms. It's a horror movie about you know, you eat shrooms, and then the whole movie they're trying to figure out if they're hallucinating or if these things are really trying to kill them, and people are dying, and you're like, is this actually happening, or are they on shrooms? Regardless, in the movie, this guy encounters a cow, and the cow tells him, he's like, you know you're fucked, right? Like dead fucked. And he's like, oh yeah, well you're just a cow. And the cow says, yeah, well I'm a fucking cow that can fucking talk. Death. Like, on the ground, obliterated. I was fucking wrecked with laughter. I thought that was so funny. If you have a movie that's mostly straight, and I shouldn't even say mostly straight, whatever, if you have just characters walking around and they encounter an animal randomly, and it's like really one scene where the animal just out of nowhere starts talking and says something funny, I'm done for. I don't know why I find that funny, but I do every single time. And in this movie, he looks at a bird, and the bird looks over him, and he's like, the fuck are you looking at? Hilarious. Got me. Yet again, not as much as the fucking cow that can fucking talk scene. That's amazing. That I don't know if that could ever be topped. I'm sure it could, but man, it seems unlikely. I just thought that was so funny. And here we go again, same thing. Then he gets picked up by Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. And this dude has the itchiest crotch of all time. 100% can relate, unfortunately. I have suffered from athlete's foot and jock itch reoccurring for my entire adult life. It is so goddamn angering. I have put on creams and everything, and it goes away. And it'll go away for months. And then it always comes back. And then I get rid of it again, and it always comes back. And it is... I think it's something I eat. Or something. I don't know what it is, because I'm clean, and you know, I don't exercise as much anymore. Like, I know what causes it, and I don't do any of those things, and it's but this guy's going to town. Like, I know better. I know better than to just be scratching my crotch. Because, okay, fun fact for women, our balls don't itch. Okay, I know people are like, oh, you're scratching your balls. You don't scratch your balls. Your balls don't itch. It's the inside of your legs that itch. Okay, if your balls actually itch, like the actual skin around your balls itch, you've got a serious problem. I've never had my balls itch. This is information you guys needed to know, but it's just for anyone that doesn't understand this. It's your legs. It's the outside of your legs, and at the top, it's nowhere near your actual balls. No balls were itched or scratched in the making of this video right now. But this dude is going to town. And let's see. The voice in his head is just so untrusting. I'm assuming this is just a representation of anxiety, which I completely understand. The style of the fake movie within the movie that David Arquette's character is in, and he's like driving his car around, and then he sees his head in the back. He's like got his head cut off, and it's in the back seat, and he's talking. I think that's really, really cool. It feels very Grindhouse-esque. I like that a lot. I thought that was actually the best part of the film, was that film within a film, and I really wish the film had been like that throughout. I would have much more preferred that. David Arquette's character riding around in that thing, decapitated and chasing after people after he died. That would be a much cooler film, in my opinion. Even the opening, title menu screen for the DVD is kind of in that style, and I'm like, ooh, this is cool. I like this. Like, I have seen this movie before, but it had been a while, so I kind of forgot what it was really like, and I was like, God, if it's really like this the whole film, this would be rad. This would be a big thumbs up, like, hidden gem kind of film that I'd be recommending the fuck out of, but no. Then, as I said, he's given the ultimatum: do you want you or your mom to die? And he eventually picks his mom, which is a real pussy thing to do. Mick Garris makes a cameo as this pretend doctor, which he has multiple fantasies about. And the mom apologizes to him on her deathbed for getting mad at him on the bullet. So this seems like a very specific event that she's bringing up specifically. So to me, this also kind of proves my point of like that was the one area. This was the one moment where she had kind of a minor freak out and she slapped him, and she like apologizes for that specific moment on her deathbed. Like, oh my God, that was so wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Like, it's okay. It's one fucking moment. It's all right. It's like, is it like perfectly fine? No, you shouldn't slap your kids across the face. But dude, a mom slapping a son across the face once in a while is really not that big of a deal. I know that might be controversial and people are like, what are you talking about? It's terrible. This and that's abuse. Dude, I guess maybe because I'm a kid of the 80s and the 90s, it's really not that big of a deal. Like every kid I know, every young boy was slapped across their face by their mother. I was many times. So that's why I'm saying it's like, trust me, that of all the things that my mother did, as abusive as she was, that is, of all the things, that's the least thing I think about. I never think about that thing. That's nothing to me. I'm like, oh, that was nothing. That was in comparison, that was nothing. I literally never crosses my mind. Because I'm bringing it up now, I'm thinking of the time she's slapping across the face, and I don't care about that at all. But I guess this is my own bias, right? Maybe some other people are sitting out there like, oh my God, if my mom ever hit me, I would be traumatized for life. I will say this, while watching this, feels very much like a faithful adaptation of Stephen King's work. This feels like Stephen King's books. Like the way that the dialogue is still like said, the dialogue is how it's written and all that, and then the narration at the end, which is kind of random, it very much feels like Stephen King. The narration in like Storm of the Century or something, very, very similar. And I like that the love story in here with his girlfriend in the opening who broke up with him concludes with them getting married and then divorced. I thought that was good. That's very Stephen King as well, to kind of show what happens and then what and eventually happens later. He's like, yeah, we got married, but eventually, nothing lasts forever. We ended up getting divorced. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then, as I said, he gets his mom. He thinks he picks his mom to die, and she doesn't. And he gets her for another 3 years, but it's actually her own demise. She continues to smoke, which kills her because she had a stroke, and now she's choosing to smoke again, and it's taking her life, which is a stupid decision on her part, but her decision to make, and she went out the way she wanted to go out. But he gets 3 more years with her, and then he goes and he rides the bullet in honor of her death and their big moment where he had such a traumatic experience. Overall, it's fine. I like it, but there's too many fake outs, and I can't emotionally connect. I think David Arquette's great as the ghost dude. His interactions with him, and I love him in this. I think he's great. I think he's the best part of this film. The main kid, he's kind of forgettable. But Arquette is the best part of the film for me. So, anyways, has anybody seen this? I hope if you're still here, you have seen this. If not, let me know if you watch it and what you think. So, and if you think, I'm crazy in that slapping your son as a woman across the face one time in line at a roller coaster is like straight up child abuse, and she should have her life sacrificed to the Grim Reaper, and her son should like never forgive her and be suicidal. Like, do you think that might be a little extreme of a reaction to being slapped across the face one time? Like, what do you think? Let me know. Adios.